More than likely, you're running a combination of OSPF v2 and OSPF v3 in your environment, especially if you're transitioning over to IPv6. And you are probably running completely separate processes and maintaining completely different databases for both OSPF v2 and OSPF v3. And this can definitely become a troublesome task for troubleshooting and keeping track of all the different configurations that you have. Well, there is a solution to that, and that is OSPF v3. Wait a second. We just had an in-depth discussion about OSPF v3. So what am I talking about here? Well, OSPF v3 has the ability to support both IPv4 and IPv6. That's right, it can maintain both. It can keep track of all the link state advertisements, maintain a single link state database, keep a single neighbor table, keep a single interface table for everything related to IPv4 OSPF and IPv6 OSPF. And we call it OSPF v3. However, the configuration is not the same as you are familiar with for IPv6 OSPF or OSPF v3. It's completely different. And we'll see here that we have this hierarchical structure in place, like we saw with EIGRP named configurations. And this hierarchical structure uses address families. So we'd have an IPv4 address family as well as an IPv6 address family, and we can configure specific parameters and values under each of those address families. So the IPv4 information is kept separate from the IPv6 information. However, you can configure global parameters outside of the address family configuration mode that will apply to both address families. So for example, if you wanted every interface to be passive, you just configure that underneath the OSPF v3 process, and every single interface is passive, so passive interface default. And then after that, you go to the address family configuration modes, and you do the no passive interface command for those specific interfaces in that address family that you no longer want to be passive. So it's giving you the ability to do single commands that affect both address families or individual commands that will only affect that single address family.